Hello, puppies and kittens. Welcome to another episode of Quran Lessons for the Infidel. We're running on the low end here. We have only, I think, 4 more episodes to cover after this, and we'll be done with this book. And we have assembled most of our usual team, not everyone this time, but we have a handful of your favorites. And so, Bogey, you have notes to take off? Bogey, I think you're muted.
I'm muted.
Great start.
Yes.
All right, let's begin.
Yes, Allah was playing tricks with me. So, well, today's surah is about the pilgrimage. It doesn't say much, but there it is. It's called the pilgrimage. I have noted 2 YouTube links here. I'm going to throw them in the chat just in case you want to go and reference them. These are 2 people who basically talk about the act of the pilgrimage. I think the second link would be the best one. That's a kid who happens to be. Sorry, this link is broken. So this one I think is good, and this one is the second one. I think it's probably better. Very simple introduction to what's going on. The first one is broken. Don't follow it. I mispasted it. Anyway, so this is a surah. It has one abrogation, Surah 22. It has an abrogation in 68, and it's abrogated by 9.5, obviously, for the obvious reasons. And my first note here is 22:2, which is the second verse. It basically says, you see people like drunks, but they are not drunks. And Allah's torture is so severe. It's quite graphic, this description of how inflicted the people are at the end of days. Very gruesome imagery. It basically starts by saying, you see the people drunk, but they are not really drunk. We just put so much pressure and torture on them that they look as if they're drunk. It says the breastfeeding woman would forget about the breastfeeding. It would be so overwhelming an event. And the pregnant, whatever, doesn't specify, would lose its pregnancy on that day. So, description of a merciful, loving God, for sure, right? This is what you.
Yeah, because what did all those unborn infants do, right?
They did not finish before the end of the day, so that's
so God
definitely
just performed, all these millions of abortions on the same day.
On the very same day,
yeah.
That just
and
happened.
So they're going to be judged then.
They are going to go to heaven because they are children and they died as children, so they will not be accountable for any sins. So yes, but
none of them. What about the ones that were born in Japan or elsewhere where they are not likely to non-Muslim parents?
The idea is, by that time, everybody is either a Muslim or is in hell. So
they're either Muslim or they're lying about it.
Well, right. So the point being is, this is a religion for everyone. So if you're not a Muslim by the end of days, you're basically in hell. It's not like he's in Japan and he never heard of it.
Okay.
All righty. Next note is 22:4, and it starts by, please read your notes.
All right, 22:4. That jumps. There we go. Fated to lead astray those who take his side and guide them to the suffering of the blazing flame.
Yes, you are not wrong. What's your comment, please?
I find it interesting that the Quran admits that there are those with no knowledge of God who argue about God and lead people astray, yet the authors of the Quran don't realize that they're talking about themselves here.
Yeah. So making things up, then calling that knowledge, does not make it so. To the extent you know of fictional things as fictional things,
But if they can't do that, then then there can't have religion.
well, if they can't, yeah, that would be the end of religion as it is, right? Because people can know fictional things, and people do know fictional things, and they consider them as works of fiction and literature, and they put them accordingly in the correct shelves in the library. It's in fiction and literature, right? So Romeo and Juliet and Moby Dick is something that can be known by humans, but they're never considered other than fiction, right? Uh, you don't need to claim it to be the ultimate truth of everything all the time. Anyways, 2205 is my next. Please read your notes again. Well done. Good movie scene.
Remember, if you doubt the resurrection, that we created you from dust, then a drop of fluid, then a clinging form, then a lump of flesh, both shaped and unshaped. We mean to make our power clear to you. Whatever we choose, we cause to remain in the womb for an appointed time. Then we bring you forth as infants, and you then grow and reach maturity. Some die, and some are yet to live. Some are yet to live on in such an age that they forget all they once knew. You sometimes see the earth lifeless. Yet when we send down water, it stirs and swells and produces every kind of joyous growth. And my comment was that we are not created from dust, nor from a drop of fluid. Yet God allegedly says that He will show me His power if I don't believe that. And I think we could actually call that prophecy fulfilled, since I have already seen that God has no power of His own, just the people who imagine that they're doing His work for Him.
I would remind you of the encounter that you had with the Dawa person when PZ Meyer was next to you and talking about it. So this is one of those arguments that, oh look, Islam knows about how human beings are created in the womb. How would people from 1400 years ago know about it? Well, ask Aristocrates and all the Greek philosopher before them, because that's exactly what they did. They did it with a chicken egg, and that's how they figured it out.
You'd never know it, but that encounter on the staircase of the conference that you were going to was a watershed moment.
So one of my versions says man and woman when it refers to the fluid, clinging fluid made from man and woman. So what does the Arabic say? Does it mention the woman this time?
No. This is a different verse. It doesn't.
The woman is just a vessel.
The woman is just a vessel. You're right.
Okay.
What are you talking about? You
All right.
don't talk about the cup. You talk about the coffee in it.
Yeah, it's exactly, the Quran refers to women in a relationship as your field to till and sow as you will. So they don't add any value. They know that, like, the writer of the Quran acknowledged the fact that you need the woman to have the kids, but they don't know why you need it. So they thought it's just like how you put a seed in the ground and it grows in the ground. So the woman is just the ground, it's just the vessel for the seed to grow.
They also didn't understand what the role of the ground is in terms of the seed growing up.
Yes.
So they didn't even understand that, let alone the role of the woman in actually creating a baby. So it's way off. And going from that argument to the yes, we know how the fetus is created is such a far-fetched argument that it needs to be addressed properly in public.
Yeah.
And you know,
And the second part of that ayah, when it talks about you see the ground dry and dead, and then when it rains it's nice. Definitely didn't live in any rainforest or a place where it rains a lot, because rain is not a good thing when you are living in a swamp. Rain, more water, harder liver.
yeah, so in essence, yes, the desert is a spectacular place. Yes, it
Yeah.
rains about once every 10 years. And when it does, it's absolutely mind-bogglingly beautiful, because all those tiny little seeds that are sitting dormant in the sand of the desert are going to flourish and bloom in about 2 weeks. And then they dry out and die because there is no way to sustain life in the desert. And is one of the interesting adaptations in living in the desert is the camel. The camel does not just survive in the desert. The camel actually fully functions in the desert with its adaptations. It's a very interesting animal. It's going to come up in this surah a little bit. So we're going to give the camel a fair shake here. 22:6 is my next note, unless somebody has anything else to add.
Mhm.
Okay.
22:6.
So
This
22:6.
is because God is the truth. He brings the dead back to life. He has power over everything.
Sure, it does. Allah raises the dead. Welcome to the zombie apocalypse. Rains. Good on you. 22:8. So, in order to debate about Allah, one must have a guidance of Allah, by the way, and the brilliant Quran book. Amazing. Please read your notes.
This is 22:8.
22:8.
Okay, so my note is that the fallible human authors of the Quran have no way to show and thus know whether there is any truth to their claims. The Quran is not a book of enlightenment because we have knowledge of many of the claims that are false. Thus, leading people away from this book what this book alleges to be God's path is to do those people a service, to save them from being misled.
Not only that, but this is flawed reasoning. The way to corroborate the truth of something is to get sources from outside the source in dispute.
Yes. That's why I said brilliant in my comment.
I don't
Brilliant.
think this would fly in a.
This is a perfectly circular reason here. It's perfect circle. How do you make it more perfect than that? I don't know.
Yeah, that's my note.
22:16 is my next note.
Oh wait, I want to mention something in 15. You said 16, Bobby?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's the neighbors drilling.
Um,
Sorry about that.
yeah.
All right. So 15, anyone who thinks that God will not support him in this world and the next should stretch a rope up to the sky, climb all the way up it, and see whether this strategy removes the cause of his anger.
Right. This same thing, I saw it mentioned in a Meccan Surah. I was not in the panel yet, but it's this thing that put up a rope to the heavens. Some of my versions say ceiling, others say like sky. So I'm not really sure what this means.
Well, you remember that the heavens were in there, the people who wrote this thought that the heavens was a giant crystal dome, the firmament.
Of course, a ceiling, right? So in the previous surah, it was not very clear. In here, it's a little bit more clear that you're supposed to hang yourself to get rid of your rage. And the pronoun he might be referring to this, not to Muhammad, but the disbeliever. Hold on, let me see exactly what's.
Yeah, this is. Remember the towers of Babylon. Remember how Allah was really, really pissed off with people building a tower that would reach up to him. This notion that God is up there is kind of like that old notion. And here is like just throw a rope up and climb up to my level and then, see where you get, right? You don't get anywhere, but also you don't go up to find God because it's not there. What do
Okay,
you
so
mean heaven?
I got it. This is the two conflicting interpretations that I got. One is that the disbelievers see that Allah helps Muhammad, and therefore they become angry. So then it tells them to hang themselves. Maybe that'll alleviate your pain. But another version is this he, when it refers to Muhammad, might be referring to the disbelievers. So they are angry that they are not going to get the same support. So therefore they hang themselves.
No. This is a rope to climb up.
Well,
So
I remember this
I'm
came up the
reading.
first time we read this same passage. We had a very similar argument about what the hell this means, and
Yeah,
I know
what
that
is it?
there was an interpretation that we are to hang ourselves, but it wasn't the only one, and it wasn't the consensus, to be sure.
So this is from Ibn Kathir, which is one of the major interpolation of the Quran, and he says that Ibn Abbas, one of the companion of Muhammad, and Mujahid, another, he's a companion of the companion, Ikrimah, Atara, Ibn Jawziyah, Qatada. So there's at least 6 or more people who said you should. That ayah refers to people to, if you don't like the fact that Allah is supporting Muhammad, go kill yourself. And basically that's the tafsir of it. And the other one says, and it's from other it's in the same paragraph. I'm reading it in Arabic, but and the other one says there's a multiple other companions saying no, it's a rope. Basically you build a rope to scale the heavens and reach the heaven until you until you at the end of the rope. That's where it's like cease, and then you will see the answer there.
Okay, so I've just received a revelation here. I understand this clearly. So for those people who think that Allah will not support them in this life and in the afterlife, let them put a rope up, climb up to where Allah is, and then look down to their own situation from the point of view of Allah and see if that oppression is going to go away or not. Okay, so he's basically saying your point of view is lacking. You can't see it. Why don't you come up with a rope and see it from my point of view? What do you think?
Yeah,
I'm confused.
it is a confusing statement, and I think it's supposed to be confusing. I don't think it's have any meaning beyond the fact just someone came up with it. But
So why does the Quran say it's so clear all the time?
oh, not all the time. It's in the next ayah says this is clear Quran. So
Okay.
The next one is clear. This one is not.
I
So
have a thing like this for a
Yeah.
further ayah. Let's put a pin on this.
yeah. So this ayah basically have 2 meanings. In at least in Ibn Kathir, which is one of the biggest tafsirs that used in the Muslim community, Muslim world, that one of them is reach to the heaven, find God there, and the other one is no, put a rope through your ceiling or to your ceiling and kill yourself, and then you'll find the answer there. So this ayah have 2 meanings. One sentence have 2 meanings, and both of them are Muslim people that say the Quran is clear.
I
2 meanings.
don't buy the hang yourself understanding of this.
This is not really all.
It collides with so many other things that, suicide is frowned upon in Islam a lot. I don't think it would just go and advise it.
That's what Ibn Kathir said, that the companions of Muhammad said. So I'm just telling you, if you have a problem with it, take it to the Muslims.
I think Ibn Kathir misquoted the companions of Muhammad. How about
it looks like the Muslims are the ones who are disagreeing on this one.
So the Muslim themselves, the Islamic scholars who have been writing commentary on the Quran, have disagreed on this ayah themselves. So I don't think there is any.
The Quran is so clear.
Exactly, it is so clear.
Except Allah has stamped upon your eyes and your ears and has closed your heart down so you won't understand it.
Because the Lord works in delirious ways.
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, 22:16. The good old Allah will enlighten whom he wants. The choice is his and not yours. Given all the ramifications, it's really malicious way to coercing of people to believe and making them think that it was Allah who guided them so. 22:16 plus, please read your notes.
So in 22:16 it says, in this way we send the Quran down as a clear message, as clear messages, and God guides whoever he will. And then I say, this is interesting. The Sabians you're actually wanting me to read 17 after it, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so as for the believers, those who follow the Jewish faith, the Sabians, the Christians, the Magians, the idolaters, God will judge between them on the day of resurrection. God witnesses all things. And my note was that this is interesting. The Sabians or Mandeans are an Iranian sect who follow John the Baptist and are very close to Islam, but identify as neither Christian nor Muslim. The Magians or Magi are Zoroastrians following their prophet, Zarathustra. They are an ancient non-Abrahamic religion, not based on the Hebrew Bible, and both are tiny sects today, where there weren't many of them then either, and they were close enough geographically that the Arabian authors of the Quran were aware of them. It is interesting that the Quran refers to both of these sects as believers, even though neither of them believe in Islam. They are each different and uniquely distinct religions. Oh, and then you want me to continue?
Mm-hmm.
IslamicStudies.info explains that the idolaters referred here are not necessarily or merely pagans, but those who associate others with Allah in his divinity. This description includes some pagans, and it includes most Christians too. Thus, this verse allows that Jews could possibly be accepted into Muslim heaven, though we don't know what the criteria is. And this verse also allows that Christians might possibly be accepted too, even if they're Trinitarian, which contradicts what we read in the Quran about that earlier. We don't know what the criteria for acceptance is in any case. Previously, the primary criteria for redemption was that one must believe that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is his prophet. That excludes each of these groups. So we can't be sure what the criteria could be now. If God decides that he might include some people from each of these groups. Freddie Mercury was a Zoroastrian. Might he make it into Muslim heaven?
Okay, so here's my comments. Believers, as in earlier, end of life, expired ways and constructs of belief. And that believers in that way, they should upgrade to Windows 11 now, Islam, if they wanted to go to heaven. This is not an acknowledgement as endorsement. It's an acknowledgement as a free upgrade to Islam offer, or else. My second note here is, I don't know if Freddie Mercury would like the Muslim heaven, though. Nod, nod, wink, wink.
Actually, I think he would love it, but might not. I don't know. No, knowing how wild his party were, maybe he would like it.
Well, everything's non-alcoholic and heterosexual.
Yeah, and those
That might be a
drums.
problem.
Not exactly Freddie Mercury's number one thing that
No.
he would go for.
Yeah.
So
It,
I don't know. I don't think he would like it there.
my thought about this ayah, it's more so you know how the Catholic Church went into Europe and adopted their customs, and like we know about Christmas, Easter, all those holidays, they took them into Christianity and made them Christian. So Islam is trying to do the same thing with those religion now. Judaism, Sabian, the Christian Magi's. He Muhammad and Islam trying to take those things, even if it's just by name in the beginning, or not just by name in the beginning, but now just by name, and take it into Islam, claiming to be a descendant or the fulfillment of prophecies in the older religion, even if there is no real connection. Just like how Christian will claim that Jesus came to fulfill prophecies from the Old Testament, and you go ask the Jews, they'll be like, no, he didn't, you know. So I think that's the biggest thing here. He's still trying to connect himself, but what we see here is that the fact he have expanded from just Jewish and Christian to include other people. He started including the Persian now, the second biggest empire, which is a little bit further less connected to the where he lived at that time, Muhammad lived. So at that time he is expanding his connection to the world with other people. That that's my note on this one.
And it's a good thing to note here, but it is confusing in that the Quran is very specific and exclusionary. How do we suddenly allow Magians or Zoroastrians and Jews and Trinitarian Christians? How do we involve them? We've already excluded them by the only rule given, the only criteria labeled so far, over and over again.
Yeah, this is more of an offer to upgrade than inclusion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
mind that upgrade. Don't do it.
yeah. It's
It's not a good upgrade. It will
it's
slow
similar
your
to what
system down and lose your files.
Yeah, it's similar to what Christians say that there's no salvation except through Christ. So even if you keep up the commandment and the law, there is no salvation for you. So basically, Jewish, even if you believe in the same book we believe in and you read it exactly the same way, you're still not saved. So you need to follow Christ. So it's the same thing. Muslims will say, Christian, even though you believe in the same God, or Jews, even if you believe in the same God, you're still not saved.
Yeah, so the mere presence of Muhammad on the face of the planet invalidates all these religions, and
Yep.
if you want to achieve that desirable afterlife, you literally have to upgrade to Islam or go to hell, regardless, because those religions are end of life at that point. They're invalid. You won't get support for it. It's over, right?
Mhm.
So that's how these type of verses need to be understood. They talk about them in a positive way. They consider them believers, but ultimately it's only Islam that will going to be accepted at the end of days. So it's either convert or go to hell.
Are we going to 18?
We're going to 19 unless you want to say something about 18.
I want to say a quick thing. Here in 18, Islam, what they call it, like uh, basically turn an ultimate object to actually thinking agent. So it talks about the skies, everything in the skies, the heavens and earth, prostrate down and bow down to Allah, including the sun, the moon, the stars, mountains, trees, every animal on earth, and a lot of human beings. So it's really interesting the fact that you could look at it. It sounds like they think the sun is a human or an object able of worship, an object with a conscience of some sort.
Yes,
And
that's why Islam uses the word alamin.
yes, and it's not just that; it's able to move and bow down. It's not just a big molten hydrogen. Uh, no, it's more than that. And the moon is not just a rock in the middle of of the sky. So it's here's another, like, it's a view that a lot of fundamentalist Muslim or fundamentalist reading of the Quran, you will see it, that it's everything is alive, everything is conscious. That's my note.
Yeah. Okay. 2219, please read your notes. Very good question.
22:19. These two kinds of people disagree about their Lord. Garments of fire will be tailored for those who disbelieve. Scalding water will be poured over their heads, melting their insides as well as their skins. There will be iron crooks to restrain them. Whenever in their anguish they try to escape, they will be pushed back in and told, "Taste the suffering of the fire." Yeah, so I'm going to skip a bit here and go to my note. Just today, I had a brief chat on Twitter with a Christian apologist about this very dichotomy. I explained that those who want to understand what is really true don't want to be deceived into believing impossible absurdities for no good reason. You misinterpret that as if we're rejecting a relationship with your magic imaginary friend, which we see as a phantasm. So how do we deserve hell? He wouldn't answer. So I asked again, how do you think our value of truth and fear of deception justify our damnation? Of course, he couldn't answer that and backed out of the discussion using the excuse that I was somehow insulting him. But apologists should answer this question. They must if they are to convince us to believe as they do. But they can't, because hell cannot be justified. And that means that their belief in a God, the God of hell, cannot be justified either.
So one of my versions specifies that the things that Aaron describes are being done by the angels. Is this so?
Yeah, the punishment in hell is done to angels.
By angels. So they're doing something immoral, and the Quran is confirming it.
No, so human being will end up in hell, and the angel will be like punishing them. So the angels are just the agent of God for punishment.
Okay.
So
I mean,
you know how, like, in Western hell, the idea of Satan as Lord of the hell, it doesn't exist in Islam. The Lord of the hell is an angel, not a fallen one, just a genuine regular angel.
He's a normal employee of Allah.
Just a normal employee. Yeah.
I'm just doing my job.
Exactly.
Even if they're just doing their job, this is, sort of evil.
Sort of evil. Well, you have to remember the special pleading fallacy upon which this is based. That it's okay when God does it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not evil because it's punishing the evil ones.
Because Allah is not a crook.
And two wrongs made a right.
Apparently.
Okay.
If Allah does it, then it's okay. Because Allah is not a crook.
We have a super chat, Aaron. If you want to read that.
Oh, yes. Give me just a moment here. So we have the first one is Mr. Monster, $5. What is your guys' opinion on the massive fatalities that came from stampedes happening during the Hajj? Almost seems like mindless herding to me.
In a way, that's the least of the problems. If you gather 1 million people in one place, you're quite likely going to get a stampede. It happened a month or two ago in the United States. There was a concert and the stampede happened. A few people died, right? Stampedes happen when you gather a lot of people together. This is just part and parcel of the deal. If you put a lot of people in one place, somebody might panic and they will start running to the exits and stampedes happen. The fact that you are doing it for Hajj purposes, for an atheist, like, why are you even having this concert there? Because if you go to a concert, you are going to enjoy a performance. Are you going to the Hajj? What are you going to get? In my respective opinion, not much. Right?
The thing about the exactly, if you're gonna gather a lot of people will, and they are supposed to
It's
do
gonna
the same
happen.
thing. Yeah. So one of the things prior to 2005, the Hajj infrastructure have not been updated since the 70s at least. So a lot of things were outdated. So a lot of ways. So people had to walk through the city from the Kaaba, the black cube, all the way to outside the outskirts of the city to go to that holy mountain. So you had to walk through the city, and today we're talking about it. You will, well, of course, not recently due to a pandemic, but prior to that, you will not hear a lot about Stampede because they have like massively updated the infrastructure there. So
Yeah. So to the credit of the Saudi government, they did what I pretty much assume that money was no object.
oh yeah,
They have money. They did what they theologically could pass as expanding the capacity
so
of, of the
one one
area.
one of the things of the Hajj, you go to this spot where it's supposedly the story goes. That's where the sacrifice of, according to Islam, the sacrifice of Ishmael, like when Abraham decided to kill his son. You know the story. So 3 times the devil have tempted him, and 3 times he threw rocks at the devil. So everyone goes to the same spot.
We don't need an exorcist. We don't need any of those kind of rituals. We can throw rocks.
Exactly. So they go to that spot and throw rocks to it. So now, if you look it up, there's at least 4 or 5 layers of like overpasses that have been built so people could, like, a lot of people could throw rocks at the same time. So there is like 7 layers of those overpasses, and the devils keep going, getting taller and taller and taller every year
Yeah. So
because they started building it.
extending the rock representing the devil
Exactly.
7 stories high, and now people can approach it from 7 different stories and throw the stones at them at the same time. It's just
Yeah,
like you got an 8-core CPU now. It's faster.
and the funny part is because well, you cannot just throw rocks in one spot, you gotta pile them up. So they had to build a system where they collect all the rocks and it goes into containers, and those containers will take it outside and dump it in a spot where next year when the Hajj come, people will go collect it from that side. So basically they're just moving rocks around.
Right.
That's all they did.
At the end of the day, they move the mountain back into its place so that next year the people can pick it up and throw it at the.
That's exactly what's happening.
Right. So they're recycling the rocks, environmentally friendly.
So is that the confirmed spot where Isaac was going to be sacrificed?
According to Islam.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, so we
there's
got another
three.
super chat
Yep.
from Gargamel Gold for $5. Says, keep up the good work, Aran Ra, Buraz, Mubarak, and Anton Gomez. We need more excellent skeptics like you guys. Thank you very, very much for that. And then somebody, Trevor and Wright, throws out a question. What exactly is a jinn? Can you explain?
Jinn is a creature created from fire.
It's
Right.
basically a genie. The plural of jinn is genie.
Yeah.
So that's where in English we get the word genie.
Yeah,
So-
Pretty much.
they have magical powers and different. If you go, there's a lot about them. It's a mythical creature from the history of Arabia and just Islam incorporated into.
How can it be a mythical creature? The Quran talks about jinn as if they're real.
Right.
I'm sorry. They
And
are
they do
real
space
things.
travel. They do space travel, man.
Right.
And they get stars thrown at them.
Yeah.
Just think about it. Jinns are pretty tough guys here. Like, you travel around in space and then somebody's lobbing stars at you, and you still go about traveling time just to listen to some music. Okay, so
Yeah, so somebody else threw in that they thought that there was a difference between the wind elementals and the fire elementals. There's a subtle difference. I mean, the genie is typically rendered as a wind elemental, but you also have the Afriti, and the Afriti are the subset that is specifically fire. However, the Quran doesn't make that distinction. The Quran just describes all of them as being made of fire.
Yes.
yeah, but
Because remember that.
the Ifrit is really interesting, though.
Yeah, the story of the flying carpet. It's not just the carpet is not magical by itself. The carpet is just where you sit, and the genie, that the air, the wind elemental will pick you up and take you somewhere else. And similar to the stories of the like witches flying on brooms, there is something similar to it in Arabia, where witches and wizards will fly on a palm tree leaf. So it's not the leaf itself; it's the whole big branch. They use it as a broom too, so it's very funny for me. So they will use the same method as using the genie to fly.
Yeah, another important thing about where this legend came from is when you build a fire big enough, it'll create a vortex. So a fire vortex. And of course, that's like a tornado. And a tornado does the same rotation pattern. And a dust devil. So when dust devils will come and, they will appear out of nothing, and they will throw your tent and all your other stuff around, and then they disappear completely in evanescence. So that's what these people are thinking when they're talking about these devils. So they thought that dust devils were literally devils.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interest. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. Which one is the next? 26?
I want to say something about 25.
Okay.
So in this one, intent alone is punishable. It's talking about being when you're near the Kaaba. Even if you only think about doing something, that's punishable. And does this tie to Surah 59? Because it says, in my language at least, that you're not supposed to cut trees or hunt in the area. That is frowned upon. So
In 25, for those who disbelieved and stopped the works of Allah from happening, or stopped people from going to the Kaaba for pilgrimage, which we made it to the people, whether they are resident
or visitors.
or visitors, and those who come with disbelief, those will receive punishment. It's got nothing to do with intent here. They are acting as to prevent the visitation of the Kaaba.
So let me read it. This is the Dr. Mustafa version. It says all of those things that you said, the Kaaba, which we have appointed for people, residents, visitors alike, along with whoever intends to deviate by doing wrong in it. So just by intending to do something.
I don't find it in the Arabic reading.
Okay. So
obviously,
the English...
the intention would be included, but it's not in the language.
All right.
Well, yeah, it says, woman, you read fi habi al had. So it, it carries both meaning, because the next word is not an actual act. It could be a belief, because al had mean that deviation from the true path, or deviation. So if you intended to deviate, or you did actually deviate from the restriction of the holy place, you will get the punishment. So it could carry, I think it could carry both meanings, for that point. So, but you don't do an act without intending.
Right. So
So
everything is covenant upon intention, anyways. But
yes, yes,
to point it out like this, I don't think it's necessary. The
yeah,
language carries enough punishment for doing the act. Whether you intended it or not, that's just weird.
yeah.
Okay. You think
You
this
you
version
don't
reads?
you
Yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go
Well,
go
I
ahead.
mean, the Dr. Mustafa version even has a footnote for this. It says, generally, intending to do wrong does not necessitate punishment.
Oh yes, it does. Oh
It
yes,
says
it does.
generally.
Thinking
Yeah,
wrong of the prophet and his wives does intend punishment. Thinking
Okay.
wrong. Thinking about Allah not being as powerful and as true as the Quran says he is entails punishment. It's called kufr.
Yeah,
It's
I
interesting
believe
how
you.
these religions, so many of them, uh, the way that they're written implies that there's no such thing as free will, nor could there be. You know, if God controls everything, if God knows your thoughts, if God knows everything you're going to think before you think it, then you do not and cannot have free will, or prophecy cannot exist. You can't have a prophecy, you can't have a whole slurry of prophecies come true, or have even the possibility of coming true if we have free will, because everything that we do has been predetermined.
Yeah, it's one
And
of
at the
those.
same time, they're also criminalizing the thought crimes, right? You can be punished for thinking bad things. So you have to believe this, and if you don't believe that, that's a crime.
Yeah, there was a thought crime just a few verses back when you did not believe firmly enough in Allah, and when you were struck with something negative, then you reverted back to your non-belief again. Uh, that's just a thought crime, right?
Yeah, I agree with you, Bobby. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just reading you what it says in the
Yeah.
Dr. Mustafa version, which is actually a very good version in English, but I don't know why it says this.
Yeah, I have to throw something else out here. There was another, I don't know, super chat, something like that, $2 from Grimlock, who asks, "Is Star Platinum a gin?" I don't know what Star Platinum is. So
I don't
anybody
know
else?
either.
trying
Okay,
to think.
yeah,
I don't have any.
I would have to Google it to know what the hell that is.
Is it a D&D thing?
I have
Have
no idea.
no idea what this is.
Oh, it's from a show. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't seen the show, so when I see it, I will let you know.
Okay,
We'll have to do research on that one.
yeah.
Okay, so next one is, I like this verse, 2027. So people would come on foot and riding on skinny horses and more likely camels from every deep crevasse. I like the expression of the deep crevasse as unimaginable distances and routes. I like the imaginary with the skinny camels as an indicator of a long, harsh desert journey, and of course, on foot. This is how the Quran describes how people come to the Hajj. Of course, today they get a ticket, they get in the jetliner, they land in Jeddah or whatever, and they're bussed in. So no skinny camels anymore. But the imagery is here for us to look at.
Um, I have to note, if you're coming, so the reason there is no airport in Mecca one of the reasons, beside the fact that most pilots in the olden days were not Muslims, is the fact that um, you can't just go to Mecca. You have to prepare yourself and cleanse yourself to be able to go to Mecca.
Right.
So, if you go to Jeddah, you have to don. If you're going to Mecca, I mean, you have to stop. If you're flying in, you stop at Jeddah or Taif, which is another city next to Mecca, and you have to don the white robe if you're a man, the white, like two white towels, the top and the bottom, and you have to
For
clean
men,
yourself. Yeah, clean yourself, and then there's restriction on you until you honor Mecca. You go to Mecca and you have to honor the building itself by the circling, by doing the walkway between the two little rises. Then you could do whatever business you want to do. Other than that, you are not allowed to just visit Mecca. So this place is like, and there is multiple places where people that coming from different direction have to stop at. So there's beside the restriction of being a Muslim, there is extra stuff to do to visit Mecca,
right.
and that's why they have like this idea that you will come in walking into it, or you will come in riding to it, because you'll have to travel to it, to aim to travel for the place itself.
I do recommend the two video clips I posted in the beginning of the chat. They are about this particular procedure and how it happens. But let's delve into the details of the Hajj, please. Let's see what the ceremony is, how it is performed, what do people do, and I'm not going to put the question of why do they do it, because there is no good reason for it. But there you go.
So I want to mention something. I read this in a tafsir, and I just want you guys' opinions. First of all, my first note is that it's claimed that the Kaaba was built by Abraham, and then, well, as he was finishing the top part of the Kaaba, he stood on a rock or something like that, and his footprints are there to this day. But I've never been to Mecca, so I don't know.
Given that the Kaaba has been rebuilt from the ground up like 10 times ever since, if not more, I cannot even doubt that. It's not there.
So
His
do they even
footprints are-
claim that his footprints are there?
No, I don't think they should claim that.
The claim still exists, and if you go and Google Maqam Ibrahim, which is the place where supposedly he stood on that rock, there is a print of a foot. That doesn't matter. It's 1 foot. So it's either Ibrahim had one leg to stand on, or he was just leaning on one rock.
That's a funny
And
way of building a house, you know.
exactly. I worked as a construction worker. I never stood on one rock and built a house. Like,
And it wouldn't
it's,
last this long, would it? The
no,
footprints?
it's the footprint now is covered in glass and little thing, and it's covered with, I'm assuming, either plated brass or something. It's nothing anything that is it's nothing that very historically accurate. It's a relic from the past that no one knows where it originated, except that the story existed for
Yeah,
it.
just like the bones of Jesus or something.
Yeah.
They did put it in a glass container,
Doesn't
nonetheless.
matter. It's not the bones of Jesus.
It's exactly that. It is in a glass container. If you just Google Mecca, you'll see it. It's a little thing, like it's standing by itself in the middle of the um around the next to the Kaaba. It's very obvious, and I'm pretty sure you could, if you check the Wikipedia, probably could find it there too.
I have another like super chat from Turbo Virgin. Well, that's an interesting name. Extra fast at not doing anything. offers 53 Mexican pesos and asks the question, why is cutting trees or hunting near the Kaaba not allowed?
Well, first of all, there are no trees around the Kaaba. It's in the middle of the desert, right?
Okay. That'd be like
So
putting a prohibition against hunting tigers in the bathroom.
it's not
Exactly.
right. It might as well, but doesn't matter, right? Generally, acts of violence and warlike behavior is not permitted around the Kaaba because it's a place of worship. So there you go. Cutting trees.
Well, what about the animals you're supposed to sacrifice
Well,
during the?
you're doing that, and it's pretty much nearby. So yeah,
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that part yet. I
we
know
haven't gotten to that part,
Oh, yeah.
but
See,
that,
We'll
that
get to it.
that's
yeah.
part of the ceremony, though.
So one of the things about Mecca, at least in its history, or according to Islam, it was a place of it's a sacred place for a lot of the Arabs of that region, that they gathered there so they do trade. They traded with each other. So it's one of those things where even Athenians did that, where they collected the other gods from other Greek people and claimed to be the center of Greek culture. And the same thing Mecca did, collected the gods from other people and said, hey, we have this shrine for you. You just have to not wear your weapon. You don't do any active war, and including the hunting, because hunting in the sanctity of Mecca is forbidden. But you could leave Mecca, hunt, come back. The cutting of trees is not like, it's not, you are not allowed to trim any tree or like rake trees or stuff like this. It's more like, do not do it in malice. So do not go to someone's garden that they spend time on it and cut it down. Do not bother the wildlife too. So it's leave it as barren.
Yeah,
Other
but if you have a tree, if you planted, let's say, date trees, right? That does not fall under forbidden of cutting trees because that's your farm. Your farm just happens to comprise of trees
yes,
instead of shrubs and whatever else you're planting. So
yeah,
you should be able to cut them down if you wanted. It's
oh
your
yeah,
trees. It's your
yeah.
tree.
They
But
you could,
in essence, Mecca is a wadi ghayr zi zar'in, right? It is actually
yes,
is mentioned like this in the Quran. It's a place
yep.
where plants don't grow.
It just and so basically it's a, I see it as an extra step of do not act with malice intent toward each other, nor toward animals or plant. So be nice to human being. Do not do any violent things to human, animals, plant. That doesn't include do not kill them for sacrifice or do not kill them for food. Do not trim your trees or do not cut them down for building. Otherwise, all of modern Mecca will not exist today if you're not gonna cut every like any trees or bush or little like thistle that grows there, because all of that now is covered with concrete and asphalt. So there's nothing there. Yeah,
Not much to cut down except the light poles, eh?
exactly.
Anyway, so back to the surah we have. Let's talk about Al Hajj. Can you elaborate on the details? Like you arrive, you wash, you do the ghusl, right? You
Hmm.
change your traveling clothes into the ihram, which is a special clothes for men, which is you're
All
not.
white.
It's all white, but that's not the point. The point it is does not go around your body, and it is not stitched together either. So that ends up with two towels, one around your waist and one around your shoulder, so you don't get sunburn, right? A lot
Hmm.
of men I have seen do not wear the upper part either. So there you go. You got the ihram done. You're not allowed to wear muhit or muhit. So you can't wrap it around yourself and you can't stitch it. That's why it ends up being two towels. For women, it's a normal hijab, right? So that's the
Hmm.
requirement there. You arrive there, you are not allowed to have sex with anybody, not just your wife who might be with you. You are not allowed to talk badly about other people. You are not allowed to do all the other things that you are not allowed to do. So, what's next? What's the first step from there?
So is it 10 days?
Yeah, the
Or
Hajj is 10 days. So the first step is going, the first thing you do after you arrive in Mecca is you go immediately to the Kaaba. So when you go to the Kaaba, you do the
Tawaf.
tawaf, which is the circling the around the Kaaba
Anti-clockwise.
7 times.
Very important,
Starting
because if you do it clockwise, you're going to get stampeded upon very badly.
exactly, and during the Hajj, if you look at the pictures of Mecca, there's a big empty space between the Kaaba in the middle and actual building of the mosque. During the Hajj, this whole area is filled with people just rotating at the same time, going in a circle. And you start at the corner where the
The black,
black
the
stone
black
ends.
stone is, yeah.
Yeah. So you started there and you go. That's where you start and you come back.
Right. Now, if you haven't started there for any odd reason, like you missed it, you have to go around and start there.
Yep.
Right.
And
so
that Muhammad started it, and he initiated the kissing and the blessing on the rock, the black rock.
So
So
a
yeah,
billion people are going to kiss the same rock every
Hmm.
year.
Exactly.
here's the thing. Muhammad
Do you
wasn't
do you
that
get to claim
stupid.
that you got herpes from a rock?
Yeah. So what he said, if you cannot kiss it, if it's too crowded, Muslims say you cannot, you could wave at it.
Really?
Yes.
Hello,
So
black
you
rock over
wave
there.
and you do takbir, which is saying God is great, Allah is great, or Allahu Akbar, and you do it 3 times and you walk. So when it's full, when the mataf where it's full, everyone is walking around. There's no way you'll get anyone close
Yeah,
to the
it's
rock every
yeah,
time. So you will see it every time they come to that corner. They will wave to the rock and walk.
and just move by
Um,
because you can't get to it. Like
yeah,
it's impossible.
Yeah, it's too
like
many people.
yeah. There's
If you,
always a
if you
line
are
there.
if you are doing the Umrah, you can get to it though.
Yeah, if you go on a regular time, there will be a line, and depending on the time. So if you go during the day, it might not be that bad. If you go, let's say in the evening to the afternoon, where it's like nicer weather, there will be more people. If you go late at night, there will be no one. So there's times when I did the Umrah, and I would purposely arrive on time that it's almost the masjid is almost empty.
And
So
then
they,
you use hand sanitizer, clean the rock, and then kiss it.
yeah, I will tell you what my dad did. You know, if you ever saw the Arabic clothing, the red shawl, the thing that they wear, the the shamar, he took it one time after a guy had kissed the rock. He took the thing and wiped it to clean the rock, and then kissed. So there people will do stuff like this. People will take stuff and rub, like I have seen a lot of people will, like there was a guy one day was just standing there next to the rock, picking up small pieces of clothing or stuff from people, will just put his hand in, rub it on the rock, give it back to people just to transfer the blessing of the rock. So a
Good
lot of
luck.
people, yeah, it's a rock. And and if you look at the picture, it's not even a full rock. It's a fragmented meteor. It's little pieces. because in the
Mhm.
history of Mecca, and if it's even the same thing, in the history of the Kaaba have been destroyed multiple times by invading armies. And one time, people actually destroyed, like, came in during the Hajj, killed everyone, destroyed the Kaaba, picked up the rock, and took it to a different city.
So how do
So
they prevent people from taking little pieces of the rock, like until
there
there's
is a
nothing
guard
left?
on it. If you look at a picture, there's a policeman. His job is to guard the rock.
Ah.
And he's got a loaded.
Yeah, his job is to guard the rock.
I think it would be a great idea to have a special number for the rock, and then you can text hugs and kisses for it.
that would be brilliant. So
No, it's fine. It's okay. If you can wave at it from a distance, then you can text it hugs and kisses.
yeah, maybe texted a sticker or something. So I just want to mention what I read from the tafsir that I was reading about this. So in verse 28, it mentions the appointed or specified days, and this refers to the 10 days of the lunar month, the Dhul Hijjah. This is where the Hajj is supposed to be
Well,
performed.
Hajj happens to be the last month of the year in the Islamic calendar.
Oh, I see.
Right.
So
So it is there because it is there.
So I just want to be clear. I mean, we are talking about one time of the year, right? We're
Yes,
talking about like
yes.
1 week or two.
The last 10 years of
the last 10
Islamic year.
days of the lunar month in
Last
the
10 days of the lunar month. So you and
the-
so every Muslim around the world is supposed to make a pilgrimage to this place at least once in their lifetime.
Yeah.
It's not the last 10 days, it's the last month, the first 10 days of the last month. Yeah.
I mean, the Hajj is one of the pillars of Islam, so it is
Yes,
very
but
important.
it's a non-mandatory pillar. So if you are poor or you can't travel or there's a COVID outbreak, you don't need to go.
You can be excused, right?
You're totally excused. Like it's every time the Hajj is mentioned, Leman istata ilayhi sabila. Who can make it? If you can't make it for any odd reason, not even specify what the reasons are. If it's too hard to make it, you don't have the money, there is an outbreak of a deadly disease, whatever, don't go.
A good excuse.
You don't have to go. You're okay. If you die, you had the intent to go and it's okay.
So day 9 is particularly special. If you fast that day, I mean, you're supposed to fast. I don't even know how the fasting is supposed to.
I will let you know. So that's the first part. You go to Mecca, you go to the Kaaba, you do the circling, and then there's a corner where Ibrahim standed. You have to basically line it up with the Kaaba and pray there. You do a quick prayer there, and then you go to those. There's two mountains called the Safa and Marwa. The Safa and Marwa were two mountains, pre-Islamic mountains, where hosted two shrines. Like they had big idols on top of them, and the Safa and Marwa named after those two shrines, the two idols.
Does it show?
I don't know.
What is that?
I don't
So,
see it.
Just a piece of
here
paper.
is-
I can't see anything.
Oh,
It's a circle.
the circle
that's
the
the
Kaaba,
mosque.
the Black Stone, the Safa and Marwa are next to it, right? It's a straight road between two mountains.
Yes. So
Just to get you a picture of how this thing looks like.
So what you do there, which there's an ayah will come up upon where people didn't, early Muslims, people who believed in Muhammad in time of Muhammad were like, we shouldn't do the Safa and Marwa. We should cut it out of Islam because they have the idols. And Muhammad said, no. The Safa and Marwa is they are it says it's why I cannot remember the words. Anyway, it says it's a part of Islam. It's Sha'a'ir Allah. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
one of the things that you have to do during Islam
That's
during the Hajj.
because when Abraham left Hagar and her son here, she was very worried about resources, specifically water, and she was running between these two mountains to find water for her baby. And this is what the Muslims are emulating, her running between a Safa and Marwa, trying to find water until she finds Zamzam in between them. And that's where that well is, even today.
Yes,
So I really want to talk about the day 9 because if you do this
we
on that day, you win a prize. You
yes,
get expiation of all your sins of the previous year and the next
yeah,
if you do the fasting.
Wait a
yeah,
minute.
And
You get forgiven for next year's sins?
yep,
yes, yes, two for the price of one. You got to do it on day 9, however.
so
That's the important one.
yeah, day 9 people will go out of Mecca uh to actually they will do it at day 8, the night of day 8, when the sun sets at day 8. They will go to a place outside Mecca. It's a big empty lot. It used to be an empty lot. Now they have tents all over the place and a big
Air
mosque in the middle
conditioned
of it.
tents.
Air
Air
conditioned tents,
tents.
and just in case the Hajj end up in the summer, then people will die for real. But they uh, they will have, like, you have to stay the night there, and then you go from there to Arafah, which is the other mount. There's another mountain. All those mountains used to have shrines and idol on top of them, allocated to different gods. We don't know much about those gods. We don't know anything really about why pre-Islamic Arab did that, except the fact that they thought those places are holy. Beyond that point, you go in the morning, you wake up in the morning. That is day 10. You go um to the you go and go stone the devil, and you don't get stoned with the devil. It's different stoning.
So
So
it's funny that you mentioned this, Mubarak, because this tafsir says that the Kaaba was the first temple built by man to worship.
yes, that's the claim,
So
guys.
my
That's the
note is
lore of it. Like when
it can't
Abraham
be.
built it, he only rebuilt it.
Yes. So the Kaaba, according to the Hadith, have been built by Adam, guided by Gabriel.
Yeah, I got to mention something about that because somebody in the chat had mentioned that Adam built the Kaaba and that Adam is more than 91 feet tall. So how does
Yes.
he enter the building with this height? He might end up stumbling while going around the Kaaba since he's very tall. Where do they get the notion that Adam was supposed to be 91 feet tall?
It's an Hadith.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
he's
just to
supposed to be
remind
a
the
So
giant.
audience, the Hadith
yeah,
is the Hadith are a collection of an uncertain number of books, possibly as many as 10,000 or maybe 100,000. Nobody knows, and they can be written by just anybody. They're just comments about the Quran.
Yeah, a lot of ancient lore actually seeps into the hadith, and we need to treat it very carefully,
yeah.
partly because of
So
that.
so the Hadith says
The
that
fact that this was the place that Adam built the Kaaba when he came down to the earth because his wife ate a fruit in heaven and then he's got in trouble. Uh, that is lore, right? And it's not, we haven't met it in the Quran as of yet, and I don't think we will.
no, we will not.
But then this lore seeps into the hadith from other religions and from other cultures, and then now it's part of Islam because now it's in the hadith. So there you go.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So they will be stoning the devil for 3 days. During those 3 days, there will be rejoicement. no Muslim could fast. They should be eating and be merry. Basically, they have to rejoice in those 3 days.
And get the devil stoned.
Get the
Well,
devil
let's
stoned.
let's also remember that the devil is a jinn, right?
Yes.
Okay, so he's made of fire.
Yes.
So we're throwing rocks at fire.
Yes. Technically, but the truth is, you throw in rocks on a pillar made by concrete and rocks. So
Can
you're
you
throwing
do,
rocks
can you
on
do
rocks.
that stone throwing while headbanging?
Oh man.
So, and a lot of people get like I have seen people cry at the moment where they're like throwing those rocks because it get emotionally involved. You have been walking all day, you are in heat or whatever, and you are just ready for
And now
it.
you get to throw some stones.
You finally able to get your revenge against the worst enemy you ever have to deal with. And I have seen people take off their shoes and throw it at the pillar. I have seen a lot of things. Just like you will be surprised the amount of
Don't,
anger people build up against the
don't
devil.
take off your shoes. It's not a good idea.
No,
That pavement, let me tell you, gets hot.
it does. Yeah, you don't want to walk on an asphalt road when it's 100 and some degrees outside. It will melt your skin. So you don't want to do that. This is kind of what we were talking about, is the synopsis of the Hajj. It supposedly started with Abraham before Islam. Muhammad kept it, adopted it, kept it, and revised it to Muslims. I would recommend the video that Bogi showed, uh, I put the links. I tried to put the links on
Is it on
in
the
the
chat?
chat. Yeah, maybe Peter will be able to put the links back to the live chat if he could. It's the um religion. I think it's the first link. The one
Actually,
about
I'm pasting them out of order now.
Yeah, I
okay.
missed them.
No, the second link, which is the one. Well, it's religion for breakfast, is it?
Yeah, that's the more detailed, more like
Yeah. So
I'm
that
gonna be politically correct in saying these things. The other one is a I think a 12-year-old kid who's visiting the Kaaba,
yeah.
and is making a hilarious video of it.
So
And it's
yeah,
really great. Now he's going during Umrah season, so he's not being trampled upon. But
yeah. So that's the big Hajj, and then you do little Hajj, which is called the Umrah, which is when people just visit the mosque, the holy mosque, and during that you just do the tawaf, the circling, and you do the Safa and Marwa, and you just the walking between them, uh, and that's
and,
the
and no
ritual.
devil stoning.
No devil stoning. Still, you have to bathe and you have to change your clothing.
Right.
And one thing, when you're done, you have to sacrifice in both things. So, in the big Hajj, you have to sacrifice an animal, and there is measures in sacrifice. You cannot just sacrifice a chicken. That's
Yeah,
nothing.
that's a question I was wondering. Why not chickens or ducks or
Uh,
ostriches or whatever?
Too small of a sacrifice. The
Come
correct
on,
amount.
for the ostrich, it's the biggest deal ever. Come on.
Yeah. So the correct amount is one sheep or one goat per one person.
Okay,
All
Or
right,
so
I've
he's
got a
Very
couple of
cool.
super chats I've got to read. So first
yeah.
of all, Grimlock for $2 says, "I wonder why Thanos didn't want the black stone." Yeah, and then moving on to the next one. What is way down here? I should have gotten to that one earlier. We have Turbo Virgin again for 46 pesos. Says, "What is mayor?" I think
major.
maybe meant major. What is
Yeah,
major and minor pilgrimage?
Yeah, that's the Hajj is the major one. The Umrah is the minor one.
Okay. And then Mortanius for €5 says, if only Muslims are allowed in Mecca, can I lie and say I'm Muslim? How do they verify it?
So
They X-ray you, and your heart will be black, and they know it's not Muslim.
they I really don't know the process of how, like, because that when I went to Mecca, I was actually a Muslim. The process to get a permit to go during the Hajj, because now Saudi Arabia is trying to limit, not just now during the pandemic, but previously they always trying to limit the numbers, because you could handle so many people at the time doing the same thing. So what they do, they have permits. So if you want a permit, you have to apply for one. And I don't know what's the international process for it. You could look into it and see what it will take if you want to do the Hajj, and it will cost you money. It will cost you a good hefty amount of money to go there and be to do the things. But I have met a guy here in the United States who is Sikh. He is not a Muslim. He's from the subcontinent of India, and he is a Sikh. So he managed, when he worked in Saudi Arabia, he pretended to be Muslim, and he managed to run a business in Mecca without converting actually to Islam. He kept up the act for a few years, had kids there, got enough money, left Mecca, and ended up in the United States. Still a Sikh. He just lied through it. Like, so there is a if you want to risk it, I don't recommend it. You could see multiple videos and vlogs. People have done it.
So what happens to them? Because I saw a video of a Hindu who snuck into the interior of the Kaaba, and they were arguing with them.
Right, you're not supposed to go to the interior of the Kaaba.
Well, he got in, and they were not very happy about it. He was a Hindu.
I would guess if any Muslim got inside the Kaaba, they would be not happy with him, regardless.
So the Kaaba is open once a year, one day a year, and that day is the cleaning day.
That the
Because-
Kaaba is the building in the middle of the thing.
Yes, that's the only day that they open that the cube itself. They will have they will bring this golden steps, and they will bring one of the representative of the Qurayshi tribe, special branch of them, and they have the key to the Kaaba, so the only people have the key for it. So they come and unlock the Kaaba, and they go inside, and it's usually a big ceremonial thing where either the king, if he's well enough to go, or someone who represents the king, heads of state of multiple Islamic country will be there to clean it. So basically, they will clean the place for a year long. This place collecting dust, so they will clean it.
Yeah, so it's not generally a place where the general public is allowed.
Yeah. So at that day, they will, after the ceremony goes, they will leave the Kaaba open for a little while so people could go in, clean it, bless themselves, try to pray there. They could pray there, and people will get. It is the same day that they change the outer layer of the Kaaba, the black sheeting, because the black cloth on the outside get changed every year. Because if you don't do it, collect dust and bird poops all over. So
and fades, and it also fades.
Yeah, so it get changed every year.
They should change it to the colorful type.
They should.
Yeah, it would be much more fun.
You would think maybe white will be easier, at least doesn't fade, but I don't know.
I got another question. When people mention that you go around this thing 7 times counterclockwise and you kiss the rock, are they kissing the cube?
No, they're kissing the rock.
So the rock is inside the cube?
So the rock is in the corner of the cube.
Yeah.
And it's got it's encased in a brass chamber. The brass chamber has a hole in it, and in that hole there is the rock. So you have to actually stick your head in the hole and then kiss the rock, or
Yes.
Really?
just text it in. I would assume that would be safer.
It should have a WhatsApp account.
Yes, just text it in, please. So it's
So
one of
Send
the
them
corners
kissing
has
yeah,
kissing
so stick
emojis.
your head in the hole and kiss this rock that
Yeah.
billions of
Exactly.
other people kissed today.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it is that thing. It's it is, looking at it from the outside, it's meaningless. But when you're Muslim, this is a rock that have been kissed by Muhammad. This
And
rock,
every other
exactly. You don't think about the people in between. You think about the important people. It's just like when you walk into what's the name, Abbey Road. When you walk there, be like, oh, the Beatles were here. So it's like, it's that thing. It's like people will walk here, but you think about stuff like you go to a famous place where someone was there, be like, oh, this famous person was here. You
Yeah,
don't
I
tell them
think
about.
I think Britney Spears' used coffee cup was sold for a lot of money on eBay once
Exactly.
upon a time.
So it's exactly that thing. It's, oh, Muhammad kissed this rock. It is important. We should kiss it. And it is and it
So
doesn't
has
matter the fact that even it might be, they're not really the same rock. Yeah.
has this been going on during the pandemic?
Yeah.
Quick.
yeah, talk about a
There's
super spreader event.
it-
Let's
yeah.
get everybody from every corner of the world to all show up in one place and
So
gather into a
the
huge crowd and kiss the same rock.
exactly. So the first year of the Hajj have been, I think, cancelled, if not very marginally limited Hajj to the locals.
Yeah, basically anybody, the local, he could come and do it. Sure.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think anybody kissed that stone on that year. They'll just
I
go
I
by.
I don't
It's still a
know.
lot of people.
Yeah.
It's still a lot
It's
of
still a
people,
lot of
but
people.
basically the first year there was no Hajj. It got canceled, right? Because
Yeah.
it was just too much.
Yeah.
Now they're allowing it, but there are pictures I'm looking at. It's literally everyone is 2 meters apart when they're going around. So I'm going. They got 1% of the crowd they used to have there,
Yeah.
which is
And
good. This is what you should be doing. Don't make big crowds because they're just gonna infect each other to no
and
end.
one of the things about the permits for Hajj, you have to get vaccinated. And there's not just like the COVID vaccine. You have to get the bird flu shot. You get a swine flu shot. You get all kind of, especially airborne.
Especially the swine flu.
Yeah, especially we don't need no swines around here. No
No,
pigs.
no
So
pigs.
it's all kind of things that they have, like, to get to that to get to the permit. Because prior to that, like during that time, you have people from multiple areas of the world will come to this place, mingle together, viruses of transmission, all kind of viruses, even before the pandemic, and they will go back to their countries. There might be a flu coming from China will end up in somewhere else. Some flu coming from Nigeria will end up in Malaysia. So it's similar of this situation.
And,
It is,
and you know,
yeah,
old people go and do the Hajj, right? It's
yeah,
exhausting. They're tired. They're weak. They pick something up. They go back home. Everybody's celebrating. Oh, now you've done the Hajj. Yada yada. 2 weeks later, they're dead because guess what? They picked something up they
yep,
shouldn't have. So it's
The damages of religion.
like,
yeah,
and you're not even gonna you're not even gonna paint it like, oh, he done the Hajj and died. That's great thing. Let's move on, right? Because the religion blinds you from the aspect of, yeah, this is an arduous journey with a 10-day routine that even a healthy young man wouldn't be able to do these days, especially computer people.
Yeah.
You kidding me? These people die because of this.
But somebody
I,
asked. Somebody asked, is it a meteorite or what kind of rock exactly?
It is assumed to be an iron meteorite, yes.
Okay.
it's
But
assumed to be because we cannot study it because it's a holy thing. So
you can't go close and look at it unless you're going to kiss it.
They don't dare take the risk that this would be a fossil coprolite.
yep, which might be the case.
Yeah. Okay, I would like to go to 36 and
Hold
let's
on.
talk about animal sacrifice in Islam in general.
I just want to make a quick comment on 31
Yes.
because it's not very clear in either of the half a dozen versions that I'm reading. But a hadith on this verse 31 explains how Muhammad narrated how the angels carry the souls of the unbeliever when they die into the heavens, but the gates obviously will not open, so they will toss his soul from all the way up there, which is rude.
It is rude,
Exactly.
but I don't think this is the souls of the unbelievers. This is just describing how lost you are if you are not believing.
Right, but they
Right?
take your
You,
soul all the way up there just so
it's
the
not
gates
even
won't
soul.
open.
No, no, no. This is
Yep.
not even soul. You did not believe in the oneness of God, right? حُنَفَاءٍ لِلَّهِ غَيْرَ مُشْرِكِينَ بِهِ. If you did not believe in the oneness of Allah, right? وَمَنْ يُشْرِكَ بِاللَّهِ, those who make partners to Allah, فَكَأَنَّمَا خَرُّوا, as if they fell from the sky without a parachute. Then the birds pick them up while they're falling, or a wind blows them around like garbage.
But why would that be the case if it's a metaphor?
Because it's a metaphor how lost they are. Like, how
So
lost can you be if you're just being blown around by the wind? How lost
yes,
can you be if the birds picked you apart while you're falling down from the sky? How lost could we even find a body at the end of the day? You're
that
really
that
lost that way.
yeah,
Okay.
that's the thing about this metaphor. If you're gonna engage the hadith in it, because the moment you engage the hadith, you add to the ayah. So the story that's attached to the ayah, about the soul falling from the sky, going to heaven and falling to the sky, it's an addition. So it in the beginning it was intended as a metaphor, and it reads exactly like a metaphor. But someone saw it, be like, hey, we could add stuff to this.
Yeah, that's why I don't trust hadiths because they're additions. They're after the fact. So, and there's just too many of them. And I'm talking about the accepted ones. So
Yep.
how can you trust something if you know that most of them are just not going to be true? And I got into an argument with a Muslim about this, and well,
That
that
you no one really could trust the hadith. Whoever says the hadith is trustable, they say it based on theology and their own belief.
he told me that okay, it's just that I just don't understand the hadiths. When I told him I
And
just don't accept the hadiths.
what does it mean not to understand it? That's the thing. If someone say you don't understand the hadith, which hadith are you talking about? Are you talking about the hadith that is talking about the soul going to heaven, or are you talking about other hadiths? Because the soul going to heaven, it's in a description talking about after you die, what someone asked Muhammad what will happen to us after we die, and he kind of described what's going on. That it's your soul will be taken, you'll go to heaven. If you're a Muslim, if you're a good man, you'll go to the next heaven, you'll go to the next heaven. If you're a bad man, which doesn't make sense because why would angels pick your soul to heaven and be like, oh, sorry, can't go in, bye.
Yeah, exactly.
Except except the fact is like it just sound made up.
Yeah, it's generally the soul is not a matter of discussion in Islam a lot. It's your entire body that's being reconstructed here when it comes to heaven and afterlife. Can we go to 36?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about animal sacrifice in Islam. The sacrificed animals are to be eaten by the people, mainly those who make the offering, and the rest is to be donated to the poor, those who ask for it and beg for it, and those who do not ask for it. That actually is in the Quran. So if you're poor and you're not asking for help, you're still given. And those who don't, animal slaughter in Islam has some strict rules. So unlike your description in the article, it's not like that. The animal must be bound and put to its side if possible. It has to face towards Mecca, the Kaaba. Its throat must be cut swiftly with a sharp knife, unless the animal is to be killed otherwise. We're talking about animals that you're not supposed to cut their throats for killing. And most importantly, the name of Allah must be spoken loudly as the procedure is performed. Did I miss anything?
No.
No, I
Okay,
think that's
that's exhaustive. So it is generally an organized matter of affairs during the Hajj. And I would like you to elaborate on this, please, because you're from there.
So, the usual, the traditional way, the way that people used to do it before we had modern systematic systems. Well, that's redundant. But before, uh, before we had modern ways, the old ways, you go to someone who will sell you this animal, and you take it, slaughter it yourself, cut it into pieces. You cut it into three pieces, and this piece is it's in a hadith. The first piece is for your household. The second piece goes to your neighbors. The third piece goes to your. The third of it goes to the poor, to in your community. That's if you're not in Mecca, or if you're in Mecca, you do it in Mecca. So if you're doing it in Mecca, you keep third of it to yourself. 2/3 goes to outside people who are outside. So some people still do it this way. So I have family members that will actually buy multiple sacrifice animals and slaughter themselves, and so you will come to this day and they will be covered in blood. It's exactly a murder scene, because when you slaughter an animal's throat, when you cut it open, that's the biggest, like, veins and jugular there. All the blood will just flashes out of their body. So that's the plan, is to get the blood out of the body. So they will do it themselves, clean the cuts themselves, cut it to pieces themselves, give it to people by themselves, do everything by themselves. Nowadays, a lot of people don't like the sight of blood. A lot of people don't have the capacity to do it themselves, place, knowledge, otherwise. They will go to someone who is independent charities or government appointed places, where you go and you pay someone to buy the animal and to do the procedure. So, for example, what my family do, they will go to a charity, pay the person in the charity the money. The person supposedly should be a trusted person, because you cannot do it with anyone. A trusted person that will go buy the meat, buy the animal, sacrifice animal, bring it in, kill it the right way, cut it into three pieces. Some people will take the two piece to themselves, and like they will take two piece so they could give to their immediate neighbors. Some people will just take a third of it. Some people will not take any of it. And it's all nowadays, it's all like more like manufactured process. It rarely happens where people still do it themselves, because the fact that a lot of people don't have facilities, don't have no knowledge of do how and stuff like this. So nowadays, all this ended up being, you give someone money, they will give you a third of a sheep or something that you bought or sacrificed. I mean, for for Allah, and that's how it goes now.
Right, and the rest of the meat isn't used up immediately. It's usually frozen and stored for later in the year. So it's kind of like a process like you would work with a normal meat factory, except you're going to buy the goat one by one, and then that's going to get processed. That's a certain amount of time.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of this is happening because when somebody, let's say, from a family travels to Mecca to do their Hajj, their family at home are also celebrating at the same time. And they're also doing the same sacrifice. And a lot of people end up seeing pictures from these less organized places where this sacrifice happens more or less the old way. And that's why we get to see this horrifying pictures of blood flowing down the streets, because people just slaughtered 2,000 goats that day, because 2,000 people from the village went to Mecca, and on that day they finished their Hajj, and that's when they are celebrating this.
Yeah. So it's not just recommended to the people in Mecca, it's recommended for everyone to do it. So um, we where I'm from, they had a big street with it's a boulevard with trees. So I remember growing up, that boulevard with the trees on it will be a slaughterhouse that day, because people don't have the equipment to process the meat to cut it down. And one of the things you need to do if you're gonna skin a sheep, you have to hang it. So a lot of people will go to the boulevard where the trees are and use the tree, put the ropes up, tie the goats, and skin them there. So that, like, it's one of the memories that I will never forget. Where you go every tree, there's someone there processing their sacrifice that day.
Yep. So,
So yeah, I like the talking about, and there's a hadith in the Sahih talking about how you have to sacrifice, you have to bleed your sacrifice, because Allah rejoice with the sight of blood. So the sight of blood, the sacrifice blood, Allah will rejoice when He sees that.
Where's that from? Hadith?
Yes.
okay, so I've got two comments here while we dig that hadith up, if we're digging it. It isn't as bad as you describe, but we gone through the process, and I think we're done good with that. There is the word which you mentioned in your descriptions, Aaron, budun, right? Which Allah isn't budun, which is a plural of badan, which is an equivalent of body. So once you got the body sacrificed, right? This is why I brought up the question, why not chicken? Why not other stuff? Because if it's using such a generic language for bodies to sacrifice, why not make it chicken? Why can't it be two doves? I don't know, right? But you said no, the limit is goat, and that's fine. Uh, it's actually like bodybuilding is it uses that word, right? Terbiya badaniya, it's basically your sports class, right? Bodybuilding club, sports club, It's a reference to bodies. 2237, unless we have something else. In 2237, just to clarify the point, Allah isn't getting its meat or its blood. It's not interested. But your piety, that's what he's interested in. Your piety for doing this thing is what Allah wants. So the pious act is what Allah wants. The people shall have all the meat and the food they sacrificed, right? So unlike other sacrifices where the offering gets burned or it gets put in the temple or somebody gets to take bits and pieces of it and say the gods ate it or something, Islamic sacrifice is for the people to eat.
I've got a couple of super chats I've got to read.
Yes.
One of them, Patriot of the West, for $2 Australian, refers to the statement. I know you were talking about the Quran, but if I can ask about the Baha'i sect, what books do I need to complete my Abrahamic collection?
Baha'is consider themselves Muslims.
It's an offshoot, like Mormons,
Yeah.
from Christianity.
Muslims will absolutely stone them for it.
And they did.
The Baha'i think that they are Muslims?
I think, or I'm mixing something up.
I mean, I knew some. I had one friend who was Baha'i and is now atheist, but once upon a time he was Baha'i. I went to a religious pilgrimage with him, and I don't remember anybody ever referring to Muslims or Islam or dressing that way.
I think
it started with Baha'u'llah, who is who used to be a Muslim, who came up with the Baha'i faith. So
yes, Baha'is consider themselves Muslims. I actually bought a Quran from their library, and it's off by one for every verse. So it's one of the most annoying Qurans I've read. It's off by one. So if you want to reference a verse in the Quran, you're going to be off by one if you use that.
My biggest problem with the idea that the Baha'i identify as Muslims is because one of the pillars of Islam is that Muhammad is the final prophet, not Baha'u'llah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
but I guess it doesn't matter when religions.
Also, the other things about the Baha'is is they say that the violent jihad need not be practiced anymore.
Okay, now speaking of not practiced anymore,
yes,
I think we have another super chat. Caden Pat, $9.99, says, in Christianity, Jesus' death led to the end of sacrificial offerings. Is there an event that would end sacrifices for Muslims?
No. Given Islam is for all times or for everything, there is no end to this. Right now, Baha'is consider themselves Muslims to the chagrin of the rest of the Muslims. To just go back to it, they also do not practice violent jihad at all. You can go and debate them about Islamic stuff. They will oblige. I personally had debates with the Calgary Imam myself, and I was asked to stand up against him in a public debate, and I refused. I have no bones against these people. They want to be peaceful Muslims the way they are. I'm fine with that.
Right. So I'm going to try to reconcile this way. I mean, if you're saying that Baha'i consider themselves Muslims, even though the rest of Islam doesn't,
yes,
that would be like, I can tell you this from personal experience. Mormons think that they are Christian, even though the rest of Christianity will say, no, hell, though, they're not Christian. Well, Mormons think they're Christian.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Except when you have to vote somebody as a Mormon into president, then they are a Christian again.
Yeah. Yep. That's the situation with the Ahmadiyya. which another
Oh
sect.
yeah, Ahmadiyya.
Yeah, I
sorry,
was going to
yes.
mention those. The
I
Ahmadi
might
and
be. I'm sorry. I'm totally sorry. I might be mixing the two things. I'm terribly sorry.
So-
And let me get one more super chat out before
Okay.
we continue the thing. Patriot of the West for Australian $2 says, "Can you explain the difference in doctrine between Sunni and Shia?"
Do you have
Wow.
20 years of time?
I'm
Probably
sorry.
not today.
Sorry, it was Ahmadiyya. I'm terribly sorry. It was Ahmadiyya, not Baha'i. Continue.
So-
That's a brain fart.
Here's the thing. A quick thing about Sunni Shia diversity or conflict. The first division in Islam, it was about who's gonna follow Muhammad as a leader of Islam. Majority, the Sunni decided that it should be elected by like basically how they used to elect chiefs of tribes. So basically, they gather, say who's the oldest, wisest people with knowledge, pick them. Other people said no, should be hereditary, should be family. So Ali, who is the cousin of Muhammad, should be the next in line. Uh, and it started a lot of it between political conflict. It started until the 1200 AD, where a lot of the religious diversity, because in the beginning they were almost exactly the same faith. I'm not saying they, at least in the story that we're told. In the 1200, after the Mongols came through and ravaged through the Middle East, we have multiple Iranian based royal families control kingdoms, sultanate empires, even that decided to diverse itself from the majority otherwise. And at the end, by the 1800, there were three, they call them the gunpowder empires: the Mughals, the Safavid Empire, and the Ottoman Empire. The Safavid Empire was pinned between the Mughal and the Ottoman. The Ottoman were Sunni, the Mughal were Sunnis. The Safavid wanted to be against both sides, so they decided to go with the Shia faith. Nowadays, the major difference between the Shia and the Sunni is the Shia have an active imam and ayatollah that could interpret the faith. So
Also, they have different turbans.
they have different turbans. The Sunni, most of the imams have four schools of studies, or four what they call them, the fiqh school. There are four, and most people will just follow what those four schools says. So it basic sense, are you adding Ali and giving him a special treatment, him and his family, or not? And then there's more flavoring. You probably could find better videos on YouTube trying to go into details, but you will tire yourself to understand it.
Yeah. Ask Diana. She'll tell you.
If Diana was here, which I hope she's safe and doing well, she she is an ex Shia and I'm an ex Sunni, so we could go back and forth, and we always about it that no, she's on the wrong side of ex Muslim. I'm on the right side. And
yeah,
so it's like,
that has happened
even
in
though
previous
I'm
episodes.
So that harkens back to the Irish joke that I hear every time I'm in Ireland, especially when I go to Northern Ireland. is, okay, you're an atheist, but are you a Catholic atheist or a Protestant atheist?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's another comment in the chat that said that the Shia, oh god, the whole thing just scrolled up and I lost it. Somebody, Lee Zio, I think his name was, says that that one sect wears white and the other one wears black. So that would be the easy distinction.
Yeah.
Not really, but whatever. Not
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun in the chat.
Yeah, the turban joke is a joke. They do wear different turbans, but black or white is not particular distinction.
Yeah,
if you noticed Osama bin Laden, who is known to be a Sunni, he often wore black turbans.
Yeah. So the black and white thing could be a reference to the flag or the banners that the two major houses after Muhammad picked up. The Umayyad had a white flag or a white banner, and the Abbasid, who are from Muhammad's family, had a black banner. But the house of Muhammad always had a green banner. That's why Saudi Arabia have the green banner with the writing on it and the sword, to base it on the Muhammad's house.
House Atreides.
House Atreides.
That's about how real all of this is. I'm sorry, they're just
exactly. Yeah. It's myth, it's lore, it's stories.
Okay, 2240, please. Please read your notes.
I want to just mention something in 39.
Okay.
I think it's pertinent to include it in this show. This is a clarification from the Montada Islamic Foundation. That's the one I'm reading this time. About this verse, the clarification reads, even though Allah can make his religion triumph without the need of the believers to fight, he wants them to fight. This is in order to test them and test their obedience, and thus reward generously those who die in his name.
So God knows everything that we're ever going to do in advance before we do it. And his knowledge is absolutely omniscient. And that's why he has to test things. And he's not a king.
The reason why
and infinite forgiveness. That's why he created hell, to eternally punish you. And that's why he also wants us to kill each other, while he sits back and he realizes that, both of these people, both groups of people have dedicated their lives to God, maybe under a different prophet that he sent, that has now formed the Jewish religion, or has now formed the Christian religion. But he sent all those prophets, and he complains over and over in the Quran that he keeps sending prophets and people keep corrupting his message, and God can never figure out how to correct that mistake that he keeps making. But he can't make mistakes because he's infallible. So he just plays both sides of the chessboard, and he's running this entire ant farm and wants to watch us kill each other, because what else is he going to do?
Well, I don't know. I mean, 39 is a cheeky verse for sure. So وَأْذَنْ لِلَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَ بَأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا. So give permission, tell those who are fighting because they were wrong done, that Allah is capable of helping them win. Doesn't say he's gonna help them, but he's capable of it. Maybe he can, but maybe he doesn't.
Yeah. So God is Bart Simpson saying, I could do that, but I don't want to.
Yep.
This is buried into this verse. Yes, it could help them, but they're fighting, so that's fine.
Yeah, he's testing them. So
it's not even testing them. It's like, you're fighting in my name. Good on you. Keep fighting.
This strikes me as a child that has two action figures, and he's testing whether Superman is faster than the Flash, or whether Superman can beat the Hulk at arm wrestling.
Is Superman faster than the Flash? I don't
I don't think so.
I don't think he is. I think the facts is the facts.
That's a different completely
Yeah.
vacuous argument than the completely vacuous argument we're having now.
Yeah.
That is
So-
a vacuous argument.
So going back to 40, as Bogi was saying, this verse is evidence that Islam promotes respect to temples from other religions. Any objections?
There is a
Yeah.
big one. Please, Aaron, read your notes.
Okay, so my note, you said on 40, right?
Yes.
Yep.
40.
Okay, so my note on that is, if God did not repel invaders at the holy houses of all religions, then many monasteries, churches, synagogues, and mosques would have been destroyed. You know, the very first Viking raid was against a monastery. And because God did not repel the Northmen then, they came back again and again for centuries, and God never repelled them on any of those other times either. Now look at what the Nazis did to the synagogues and what the communists did to the churches, and then the Crusaders versus the Muslims, and so on. Lots of houses of worship have been destroyed all through history because God does not turn back invaders.
Right. It doesn't. Just remember when the Taliban blew up the Buddha mountain thingy. Right. That was gone. Did not get any protection from Allah. Allah consistently did not repel anybody from destroying places of worship ever. Just remember
Muhammad-
every few years the Coptic churches in Egypt get blown up. You don't even have to roll back the reel too far to see one of these blowing up of churches events around Christmas time.
Yeah, and Muhammad have ordered a group of his followers to go and destroy a holy site in Arabia.
He did.
So-
if we are to believe any of that history, he did.
Yes, yeah, and the Sunni Muslim, they will believe that because it's in a Sahih Hadith that Muhammad ordered, and when they did go to that holy place called Dhul Khalasa, sorry, my dog is sneezing.
Yeah.
You have
We
a
love your dog,
Mubarak? I
Mubarak.
knew that you had cats. I've never seen your dog.
Oh, nice dog.
Adorable.
Ah, there we go.
So when he ordered the people to go there and destroy it, of course, it's a temple, and they go there and they find people. So they tell them, you either become Muslim or we will kill you. Some listened, some didn't. The one that didn't listen got killed, them and their kids. They didn't even leave anyone, just like Genesis.
But why the kids?
Why not?
Oh, come on.
Exactly. It was an open slaughter. They killed everyone who didn't listen, destroyed the place, came back to Muhammad. We did what you order us to do.
I want the audience to think about this question. I mean, if you are your God, not just of this planet, but of the entire universe, but let's just let's ignore the rest of the universe for a moment and think that you are God of everybody on this planet, every person, everywhere, every nation on this one tiny dust speck of a world. Do you really care that people in Medina disagree with people in Mecca in the same damn country and that they're going to fight? I mean, that any of the things Mubarak is talking about right now is, if you're a God, really, of everybody, is this an issue you want people to die over?
Moreover, if you're a God and you're capable of everything, can you choose not to be a peacemaker? How can you
That's what I
choose
think all the
that?
time. That's what I keep thinking as I read the Quran. Why is he not a peacemaker?
Why does God never, in any scripture, not the Quran, not the Bible, not any of the other scriptures for any of the other religions, God is never someone who promotes knowledge, never somebody who wants people to figure things out, never somebody who gives clues to things we could not already know. There's lots of important information he could have told ancient people about microorganisms, for example, and the value of washing your hands. Lots of different things. God never says any of these things. Instead, God is always about absolute control of everything you think.
And submission.
Yes, total submission to ultimately a person whom you are to believe absolutely, without question, reservation, or reason. You are supposed to believe some self-appointed prophet, not because God said so, but because the prophet said God said so. The prophet whispered in his ear that he is now in charge of all of you over everything you do. And by the way, leave me alone in private with all of your children.
No, don't do that. 2241. My note here is the middle part of this verse is the official name of the Saudi religious police.
Mhm.
He's nodding. He's nodding. He's nodding.
Yep.
Yepers. Next, 53.
No, wait.
I want to do a quick reference to that oppressive regime of the morality police or religious police. Earlier, about 20 years ago, they had more power than what they have today, which is very good, in my opinion. I remember growing up, and there were when phones started having cameras on them, and like people taking like videos and stuff like that. We started seeing what they do, and like the actual religious police will do. So there's multiple videos where they argue with people about how they look. They, especially women, they if you're not covered up, they will argue with you. They will beat people in the street for not obey, like for talking to strangers. And there's multiple times where there's videos of religious policemen, big, strong men, chasing women down the street because they didn't want to listen to them, and they're like they wanted them to stop, and the women were like, "No, fuck off! I'm running." So you'll see a video of this big adult guy, adult in quotes, running, chasing a girl in the middle of the street, which is one of the biggest irony. Now I look at it, that was their main thing: control women, control population, control. So thankfully today, well, even though that they are not happy of what's happening to them, which is I'm glad of it, but they are being limited to a lot of things because apparently chasing kids down the street will make you look bad. So a lot of people told them, do not do that.
Okay.
So
Yes.
before you jump all the way to 53, I think you said,
Yes.
I have two important notes. One of them is in 42. This is a miracle of the Quran. So brace yourself, atheists.
Okay.
In 42, it talks about the city of Ubar. This is a miracle of the Quran because this city is what's known as the Atlantis of the Sands. This was discovered by archaeologist Nicholas Clapp in the 90s. So nobody knew about this lost city where the people of Ad used to live, and yet it's mentioned in the Quran. So the people of Ad they're mentioned in a previous surah, in Surah Hud. So this was a lost city, and nobody knew about this, and yet it was predicted by the Quran. I even tried to contact apostate prophet because all I have is the Muslim perspective that this is a miracle.
Yeah,
People of Ad were ancient tribe of Saudi Arabia. The city was known as Iram. The tribe was popular for its cleverness and physical strength, and therefore they're also called giants. They were also strong and intelligent that could carve mountains and use it as their homes. No, nothing of that. This is made up.
So you're
So
not impressed.
that
Not even halfway through. There is no need for them to claim Atlantis because Atlantis is probably humbug on its
no, they
own.
call Atlantis of the Sand. It's
Yeah, it's
No,
like a comparison.
yeah, no, it's a very bad and deliberately very misleading comparison. No, these
So
are
a lot of these
people.
places that the people had built these tiny little villages, and some of them could be buried under a single dust storm, or in one case, that there's some people want to say that Sodom and Gomorrah were taken out by a comet impact, but the description of the text sure sounds like that they were in the way of a pyroclastic flow, and there were volcanoes, and people built houses and villages along volcanoes and all this sort of thing. So anytime a community of 10 buildings was demolished by any means, it became legendary. What happened to those people, and why did it happen? Well, because the gods were angry with them, whichever god it was.
so what's going on here? It's the main thing is Muhammad was a traveler, and he traveled from Mecca to the Levant area, Syria and Jordan area. So when he was traveling, he will pass those ancient buildings, ancient cities where have well, he will pass on the Petra, and he will go by and see those mountains being carved. He doesn't know how they did it.
No,
Probably no one at that time knew how they did it. He will pass where there's a place called Mada'an Saleh, which is the town of Saleh, which is where Ad is supposed to be at, which where they where they pass by. It's a they have big rocks. They look like they have been moved to this place, but when you study them geologically, it's just the erosion on it, how the wind carved it. It's like it's different type of rocks. It happens everywhere. Wind will come, the soft rock will flick
erode,
off, and then you
erode.
have hard rock in the middle of it. And they managed to cut through those hard rocks with long time and chisels, basically.
It wouldn't be far-fetched that there were mountain carved villages in the northern part of what Syria is today, and the mountains of Anatolia. Those cities did exist. Okay,
Yeah,
and sometimes these cities got abandoned because people just moved on, and when you move on, you don't take your homes with them.
yeah, and I want to say the problem there was um, a lot of weather change. So because the area is so arid, so any change of weather will change it totally. Um, we know that Ur, like the famous city of Ur, was abandoned about that time for two reasons. The river changed its path, so there's no more water going through the city, and the rain stops because of that.
Right. And the funny thing is,
Yeah,
2,000 years later, when the river changed, the pharaoh just orders his workers and brings the rivers right back into their places.
yeah.
Right.
So
It
yeah,
is technology. People invent these things, and rivers don't move around anymore 2,000 years later. And that's 2,000 years before Muhammad was even an idea.
yeah.
Hmm.
So stuff like this changes. So a lot of those things have changed. One thing that major change that the southern Arabia had a lot of incense and aromatic that they used, the Roman used in their temples, the polytheists, the Roman gods' temples. Christian, when they first came in, stopped doing that. So the big trade of incense through that area ceased. No one want to buy your stuff. So what they end up doing is switching to a different route and different thing to sell. And sometimes the land route will be too dangerous to go, so they will go by the sea. And sometimes the sea is too dangerous to go, so they will go through the land. So,
Right, so if you had a town in the middle of a trade route, and we don't even have to, let's say you were trading tin for bronze during the Bronze Age, right? And you were in the middle of that tin route, and then a war happened or anything happened nearby. Forget about a natural disaster that diverted the river, and now it's hard to cross. Okay, and now your village is on the wrong side of the river. Okay, and the trade route doesn't go there anymore. So the people who are carrying the tin from the mountains are not going to stop by your inn anymore, right? So what are you going to do? You're going to leave the house and the inn and move somewhere else where people stop now. And Muhammad drives his camel by these areas, and you can do it today. Like you can do it. Uh, you can drive your car next to the pillars of salt where Lot's wife is supposed to be today with a car, and you can point at the thing and say, well, that's Lot's wife, right? It's got nothing to do with Lot's wife. It's just that mythology keeps being repeated a long time. And Muhammad goes there with his fast camel, stops by, nice pillar of salt. What is this? Oh, that's Lot's wife. You haven't heard about what happened to them? And then he's given all this mythology, which probably got nothing to do with the truth. And then he remembers that and then puts it in his book. And now it is forever mandatory for everyone to know.
So you're not at all surprised about the mention of this city in the Quran.
you find a ruined city and you make a story about it. What's so surprising about it?
Oh, well, too bad that you guys didn't convert to Islam right now.
Ah,
So
You don't even
Try
have to
again.
find. You don't even have to find the ruined city. You could have firsthand knowledge about a city that was taken out by a landslide or
Yeah.
by a pyroclastic, especially if it's a pyroclastic flow.
yeah,
Wow,
maybe.
that's literally an oh my god situation. That's that
Right.
because there's like 60 times in the Old Testament that it talks about God in terms of a volcano. So yeah, if a mountain erupted in this huge torrent of clouds and lightning, and there's always associated with these volcanic eruptions, and then you have this smoke that comes down and smotes everyone like that, of course you're going to blame all of that on God.
Right. I
and
just
those cities
a,
disappeared. They're
a
gone.
couple of
Mhm.
weeks ago, there was a big volcanic eruption in the Pacific Ocean in the Tonga Island. It was a Tonga
Yeah.
mountain. The whole island went up in smoke, literally. Okay. If you were there, that was God striking them down now. Okay.
And
There's
that's
really nothing more godlike than
It's
we can see on this planet.
right. I
Mhm.
mean, just look at that explosion in the satellite images. I
Oh,
would
yeah.
go like, wow, this didn't go higher because there is no more atmosphere on the planet to go.
Right. That was like a chunk of Europe, the size of 30% of Europe, I think.
Right.
It was
There is
pretty.
no like, we are lucky to have the satellite footage today. But those people on
So
the ground, they
Just
spent a
imagine
week
what
trying to
news that
find
would
their
be.
radios.
We're talking about an island that's way the hell out in the middle of the Pacific. That if we didn't have global communications networks and satellites and everything, we wouldn't even have known that it had happened like at all.
Right.
What if that was a Mount St. Helens event? What if that happened in in the United States near a major city and actually interrupted air traffic and all of that? Well, then it would be in huge news, and the
YouTube
creationists
would be
would be
full
all
of it.
over it because
Yeah.
they're still using Mount St. Helens, 40 years on as their evidence of the Great Flood.
Right. And the city of
yeah.
Pompeii, we're digging it up these days. We're digging the city of Pompeii up. And the
Right.
pyroclastic flow was so fast and devastating. We literally see people looking like this and they are frozen for 700 years
And it's
because they're
buried.
just buried that way.
Mhm.
And the ash actually preserved their body shapes, right?
So yeah, so like it's not hard to make stories, and yeah, there is a myth in Arabia pre-Islam about those people of Hajj, but it's not. I'm not gonna go into the details of the what city or where in the cities, but they don't really know where the place at.
Right, which kind
They
of is a problem.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people, like if you read the Islamic exegesis, they will talk about how it's could be in the north of Arabia, it could be in the south of Arabia, it could be somewhere in the middle of the desert. No one really knows who are those people. They are an extinct group of people. They
Yes,
cannot tell their story,
they might not even
except
necessarily be extinct. They might just have picked up and moved.
yeah, exactly. No one knows what happened to them. It's story built up around it. They know there
Like,
was a big city that
right.
got destroyed.
The
Who
people of
are
the
they? What
city
are
of
they? No one
Ur
knows.
did not die when their city went,
Yeah,
abandoned. They did not die. They
it got
went
that.
north
Yeah,
and they built another one.
yeah.
I noticed a comment in the chat that I want to respond to. Somebody, Chazzy, asks if we're all atheists. So I just want to remind the viewer at this moment that I'm attempting to read the Quran, and I understand that if I were raised as a Sikh, for example, or if I was raised in Pakistan, then maybe I might never have met a Christian. I might met a Muslims or Sikhs or Hindus or whatever, but I wouldn't have any idea if I read the Bible. I wouldn't have any idea that the serpent was supposed to be Satan, because the Bible doesn't actually say that. They wouldn't have any idea about the Trinity, because the Bible doesn't imply that either. There are a number of Christian traditions that are included in the Bible that are not written in the Bible. You have to be raised with that religion to understand them. And then everybody tells me that in the case of the Quran, that it doesn't make sense unless you read it in the original Arabic. And I'm comparing all these translations that are all translations into English, and there's a lot of discrepancies there. So I thought that the best way to read the Quran would be with the assistance of people who were raised in Islam, who are immediately familiar with all of the traditions therein, and who speak Arabic. And so with Bogey's help here, I assembled a team of people that can help me to do that. So that's what we're all doing here. And most of them, Anton, were you ever Muslim?
No,
Okay.
my uncle was Muslim. I started reading the Quran for the same reason. I wanted to know what was actually written there, and get help from only Muslims. I don't like, unlike you, I don't have the advantage of having apostates. I only get the Muslim perspective on this. And once upon a time, I would have defended things in the Quran or in Islam in general that I shouldn't, because it's upon reading it, I discover what's there, what's written there, and what's not. So that was
Right.
my personal.
Right, very good. Let's continue. I'm sorry for the interruption.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, in my other note, which is
All right, checking a look at the private chat. All right, so we have Lee Zio, a girl named, I cannot even pronounce that, Anika. Anik is sentenced to death by court in Pakistan for blasphemy because her ex-boyfriend testified in court and shown evidence of a funny WhatsApp message on Muhammad. Yeah, so you don't even joke.
Asia Bibi 2.0. Let's call
Yeah,
it that way.
so that's your life. That's how
It's
people.
horrible.
That's how desperate the wanna believers, the pretenders, are about their make believe game. They want an alternative reality. They want to believe in it hard enough that it becomes a reality. But it doesn't matter how much you believe; it never becomes real. But when you have control over the law, you can force people into this sort of mind game.
Yeah.
Another point, also from Lizio, says, please ask Aaron Ra to say something on blasphemy law. Only pressure from Western countries will work. Well, that's a valid point. There was a time a decade or so ago when people were being punished, imprisoned, or whatever, or the greater threats against them for drawing pictures of Muhammad, not understanding that there are pictures from antiquity, paintings, portraits of Muhammad from antiquity by Muslims. It's
From
just somebody
antiquity.
decided one day that it should be a death penalty to draw Muhammad. So we all started drawing Muhammad.
Maybe
And I
because
agree,
we're
it's
drawing
going to
him
take
badly.
pressure from Western culture, from not just Western culture, from the broader culture,
So
to
aren't we
call out this
supposed
kind of
to
injustice.
aren't we supposed to draw Muhammad nicely? And the problem is with drawing him badly.
But you should be free to draw whatever the hell you want to draw.
That's
This is
what-
why I'm going to draw Mohammed, because I didn't even know this. I even feel foolish that once upon a time I would say, no, that's not true. You're incorrect, to somebody who said the people would be killed if they draw Mohammed. So, well, now I'm drawing Mohammed because
It was-
this is just preposterous.
Yeah.
You can draw
Yeah.
anything and just call it Muhammad. You just draw a picture and of anything at all. A handful of squiggles. It can be an abstract if you like, and say this is Muhammad, and then it
Now
satisfies
this
the
is
criteria.
Muhammad. Yeah.
And that's the thing. And there's like a hashtag going on in Twitter and a lot of social media. And if you feel safe enough to do it, find it, retweet it, or share it with people. Make as much noise as possible, because the truth of the matter, at the end of the day, my life in my own country worth nothing, because I do not believe the same story that they believe in, and that's the thing. I have to leave my country. Multiple people had to leave their country. Multiple people had to cut out their families, because their life ended up worth zero to anyone. Um,
That's what happened to my
and
uncle.
yeah, so a lot of people, like, that's what happens to a lot of families, a lot of people. Blasphemy laws, apostate laws, all of them are just restriction to human rights. Um, and then without outside support to pressure countries like Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, all those Islamic countries to actually put an effort into it. So if you are, especially in the United States, you could send a letter to your representative, talk to someone might be doing anything. They might not even register, like, oh wait, people, this story maybe didn't even come close to them. Find a senator who's in a committee, that international committee or relationship. Send them emails, send them letters. There's a lot of stuff, like, in countries you could, if you could reach your representative. If you cannot, the least you could do is share it on social media. The more people knows about it, the worse it is to the country to do it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm in Texas, so my representative is pig ignorant, and I have to bypass him.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's in Canada we managed to abolish the blasphemy law that we had,
Mm-hmm.
which was last implemented when somebody was going to play what's that comedy movie, Christian comedy movie. Help me out.
Oh,
The Book of Mormon?
Sorry,
no, Life of Brian,
The Life of Brian.
Monty
That was the
Python.
last time that law was brought up, that it's a blasphemy to play that movie in the theaters. And at that point, the whatever, the chief, whatever, basically threw the case out because said, we don't do this here.
Yeah,
It
I got to
took
tell you,
another 30 years from there to get the blasphemy law, repealed.
you mentioned earlier this afternoon about a watershed moment where me and PZ Myers ran into a handful of Muslim apologists in Dublin, Ireland. Or yeah, it was Dublin. And the reason we were in Dublin was because Ireland had a blasphemy law. So they decided to host the World Atheist Convention in Dublin for that reason, to call them out and say, hey, we're doing all kinds of blasphemy here. Come and see how unenforceable that law is.
Come on,
And
get
here in the
some.
United States, at least for now, still, blasphemy is not a crime. Blasphemy is a right.
Yeah.
And it should be. It should be my right
It should be.
to blaspheme as much as I like or as little as I like, because those deities do not exist. And even if they did, my blasphemy cannot hurt them.
They shouldn't care if they existed.
It would not make a squiggly diddle for them if I blasphemed or not. It would not make. If they are truly the gods they claim to be, my blasphemy is irrelevant.
Imagine being God and losing your shit because somebody didn't believe in you, and it's entirely your fault that they don't believe in you. But obviously, God could not really be offended by that. It's just the wanna believers who really want to make believe in the pretend God. They're the ones that get upset because you're harshing their fantasy.
Harshing.
Yeah, if a believer is ever watching this, I mean, ask yourself, would you harm your own kid because he blasphemed? Would you kill him? I mean, come on.
I've met people who say yes.
Some would.
Yes, but usually
to the horror, they would say yes.
Sometimes they do, but usually human compassion kicks in.
I have had a debate with somebody who said yes.
Anyways,
41 is my next note, unless you have something else.
41. That puts us halfway through. We're 2.5 hours into this. We're halfway through the Surah.
Yeah. I apologize, Aaron. I just had so many notes for this one Surah.
No worries. Okay, so for those who, when we established them in the land, keep up the prayer, pay the prescribed alms, because that's important, command what is right and forbid what is wrong, God controls the outcome of all events.
Everything. Okay, my next note is 53.
Hold on. In 52, the remember at the beginning of the episode I said, like, put a pin on that. This is Satan. Hold on.
It's not 52. It's 53, not 42.
Yeah.
It is the yeah. It is 53.
I mean, before 53, in 52, my note is Satan is being redundant since. Oh, by the way, isn't this a contradiction? Because it's been said that Allah, in a previous surah that we covered, Allah sends some verses that are unclear, and here it says otherwise. And it says this is because Satan is putting some misinterpretation and unclearness in the verses, which then Allah corrects. So Satan is being redundant.
Well, problem solved then.
Okay, moving on.
He's going to fix it.
I'm just saying it's redundant.
It is, but he said he's going to fix it. So,
okay.
You either going to trust Allah to fix it or not. It's up to you.
Yeah, and no one except Muhammad knew which one are the actual verses
I don't think
from
Muhammad
Allah.
even knew. I don't think even Muhammad could tell the difference.
So he claimed that Allah cleared them up and they got deleted.
Good, so they're not here. Okay, 53. The devil can only drive those who have sickness in their heart, aka not believing strongly and correctly. Yes?
Disbelieving is a sickness.
Yes, disbelieving is a sickness.
But didn't God also say earlier in the Quran, didn't God say that he decides who's going to believe and who doesn't?
Yes, but the devil can only drive you if you're sick already.
By the way, in Surah 2, Al-Baqarah, it says that those who disbelieve, those who have this sickness in their hearts, God will amplify that.
Right, so he puts the sickness in your heart first, amplifies it, and then lets the devil take care of you. Sure, thank you very much. Very helpful.
So God made me the atheist I am.
Exactly. Did an excellent work, though. Didn't know what he was doing. 54 is my next note. For those strongly deluded, Allah will deliver them to the straight and narrow. Got it. Okay. I'm just paraphrasing the verse in a way that is more understandable. Next one is 68, unless somebody has something in between.
Scientific inaccuracy in 65.
You found one?
Yeah.
The
I have
hell
it
you
in my
say?
notes.
Have you not considered how God has made everything on earth to service you? That ships sail the sea at his command, that he keeps the heavens from falling down on the earth without his permission.
So nowadays we have planes. Is the scientific consensus that there's a dome up there and that it's not falling, or
I don't know, but the pilots have their hands full for sure if that's true.
okay?
I have to check the reference and see if Muhammad's name means chicken little, but I'm not sure.
Maybe it's one of his name. Who knows?
Could be.
65 and 68 is my next note, which is abrogated. So if the unbeliever debated you and did not believe as a result of that debate, then 9.5 takes over and abrogate the rest of the short verse.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, unfortunate that, oh yeah, Allah will know what they're doing. No. This part is actually abrogated by 9.5.
Because every surah has to have at least one line abrogated by 9.5.
But some of them don't actually. But the subject doesn't come up, so that's fine.
Somebody
Okay.
asks, Ishaq Ibrahim asks, verse 51 is the evidence for satanic verses. Tafsir al-Jalayan, Ibn Abbas, Ibn Kathir, etc. for Quran 2251 explained it in details. And I should have remembered this because Ibn or Ishaq had mentioned this earlier this afternoon, that we had to be wary of that verse.
50,
Yeah, he's
51.
a knowledgeable guy.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's not on the show, actually. But just so verse 51, but those who strive to oppose our messages and try in vain to defeat us are destined for the blaze.
Oh no, those people who created Surah 115 are destined for the blaze. Ouch. That's not nice, Allah. Come on, that's a good surah. That I can get behind. Okay, so 68. Oh, we got that. 73 is my next note.
People, here is an illustration, so listen carefully. Those who you call on beside God could not, even if they combined all their forces, create a fly. And if a fly took something away from them, they would not be able to retrieve it. How feeble are the petitioners, and how feeble are those they petition.
A fly?
Yeah, so I want to see God create a fly. I want to see Allah create a fly. Let's create a controlled environment, an experiment, if you will. You know, a virtual vacuum with nothing in it but for, say air for the fly to breathe, and have God create within that confined space a fly.
Okay. Here is the scientific experiment. This is a confined space. This is a piece of paper, just Allah does not forget. Please, Allah, create a fly right in here. I'm going to put it in. There is no fly. It's empty. Here's the lid.
Before he puts it in there.
There, it's closed. And I'm going to put it away, and I'm not going to look at it until the next episode. And we can find out if Allah can create a fly or not.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, it reminds me.
Put it away, and we're going to see. Yes, spontaneous flyism.
This surah should have been called The Fly.
You think?
And by the way, Aaron, you sound like the skeptics from that time that told, which is mentioned in this surah, that told Muhammad, okay, well, bring the punishment now if you're telling the truth. And he said, It'll come in. No, what did Muhammad said? I forgot.
Will come in its
Something.
own time.
Yeah, it'll come in time. You cannot haste God or something like that. So basically, he couldn't prove it.
Yes. Well,
So, and
we
then
will,
a day
we
is
will
like
see.
1,000 years unto God. So that
Right.
means that if God was going to do it today, it might be over 900 years before it happens.
In a couple of weeks.
Exactly.
In a couple of weeks. We'll find out. He can surely read English, I hope. Maybe I should have written it in Arabic.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, he should know English, right? He
Well,
should
he
also
evidently
know
doesn't know Hebrew because all of the stories have been translated differently from the Old Testament.
Yeah, that also brings Greek into the question. Okay, well, that's the end of my notes for today.
Okay, so since we mentioned this time limit that we're going to impose on God, and we mentioned a couple of weeks, I'm going to venture to say we can't do it in a couple of weeks because
God
in a
gets no
couple of
time.
weeks, 2 weekends from now, I will be a featured speaker at SatanCon.
Oh, nice.
Yes, I will be attending the first annual event hosted by the Satanic Temple in Scottsdale, Arizona. So
I'm
when
gonna
we do
post
with
it
this,
in.
I will write another Quran lesson for 1 week from today, if everybody's okay with that.
Okay.
I'm
1
okay.
week.
We'll
Okay.
try to
Yeah.
do one for 1 week from today, and that will barely leave us time for a second. If we're going to be doing these bi-monthly as we have been, then we'll have another one on the 20th or the 27th later on this month, or later on in February. I mean, so we'll have to do one a week from today, and so I'll have to get started on that right away.
Yeah,
Sure.
that sounds good.
Sounds like a plan.
Right.
Hopefully, Allah would be able to create a fly in my box here, because if he doesn't, it's going to be really bad. If we
All right.
have a fly, however, I'll convert to Islam. I'll just totally do it.
You would
I
bring
will-
Phlogisto
Boogie,
again.
if I knew where you lived,
That's look. It's winter up here. I can't make a fly on my own. There is no way there's a fly around here. So I'm going to put this away so I don't see it.
Okay.
And the next episode, I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to show you the fly, or maybe not.
We'll see.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. And thank you also, everybody who's watching. Thank you, everybody in the chat and so forth. This has been a fun series. We've only got about 4 more episodes after this. So I suspect that our last episode will probably be the second one in March. And then we'll be done with this horrid book.
Well, but it's the word of Allah. I mean, come on.
I told somebody else recently that this was the most redundant, repugnant compilation of constipation I had ever read.
Oh,
All
we're
right, thank
so
you.
going to hell.